Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Below the Line podcast. For this episode, I had the great pleasure of sitting down with Brian Kingston. Brian is a coach and facilitator who joined me for a bit of a free-flowing conversation about our lives and business and where we find ourselves right now. I am in the privileged position of knowing and working with Brian's dad Ian, so I began by asking him what it has been like to work with his dad and what his experience has been like of finding his own place within his father's business. The conversation then proceeded to take in a range of topics, from our understanding of what coaching and development is, its relevance and links to a healthy organisational life, and how important it is for coaches and facilitators to bring all of themselves, including their vulnerabilities, to the work they do. We hope you enjoy this conversation and that it provides some useful food for thought. Thanks for listening and see you again soon.
Brilliant. Okay. So how should we start? Should we just kick off?
I think just kick off. Yeah. Let me ask you a question then, just to get us going. So we've known each other a relatively long time, and you've been all around the world and you've been traveling here and there. You're back home in Ireland now after a long time away. Yeah, I'd love to know, Brian, what's it been like trying to establish yourself within your dad's business? Maybe that we'll go from there and see where that takes us.
Great question. One thing is I'm trying to learn myself to stop calling it my dad's business and to call it our business. And after 18 months of doing it, I'm still catching myself being like dad's clients, and because really we're working on them together. So that's the first thing that comes up when you say that. So our company's called Essential Training, and we've been around for 25 years plus. Dad started it after a successful career in banking, and the short version of how he started it, and I'm not sure, do you know this? You probably do, is he was part of the bank he was in. He was part of bringing in selling insurance in the bank, and he was getting bankers to do things that they haven't been able to do before, which was sell insurance and kind of train change management internally. And after doing that for a number of years and coming up to Dublin from Cork, he realized that what he actually really liked to do was help train people to do things that they never thought they'd be able to do, and see that light bulb and see that growth within people. And so through that, he took a bunch of courses. He was going to things like Tony Robbins and Jack Black, who was kind of the UK Tony Robbins at the time. He brought him to Ireland and then ended up setting his own business. And he says to me all the time, like, he started out doing breakfast mornings, like networking events and training teams on time management. And that's kind of morphed in the last 25 years into management, leadership coaching, one-on-one executive coaching, career coaching. He coaches a lot of CEOs. And how I came into the business is, well, through all my life, really, I'd be bumping into people and they'd say, geez, your dad saved our business, or your dad's the reason why we exited really successfully. He was working with us for years, or geez, your dad really helped my marriage. And I was like, what kind of sorcery is this man doing here? So, and I want a piece of that because that's so impactful, that what he's doing and the impact he's making on people's lives. And I said to him, I was probably 15 or 16, like, I want to do what you do. How do I do that? And he's like, well, you just have to go out in the world and get experience, really, because you need life experience to do what we do. And so, and we ran a father and son course, which you were
Yeah.
on, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Delphi in the west of Ireland. And I remember he said to me, yeah, we'll do a father and son course and we'll facilitate together. And I was like, yeah, Dad, that's a great idea. When I was 22 or 23 in the early stages of my career in tech sales. And, there was probably, I don't know, 8 or 10 fathers and pairs of
Mm.
fathers and sons there. And it was a weekend of adventure, and we did workshops. And um, I remember Dave Gribben doing this exercise as we were doing a storyboard of our life. And it was an amazing experience to see fathers and sons in the same room.
Yeah.
There was teenagers and with their dads, or there was you with your dad who
Yeah.
Um, and there was me with my dad in their 20s, and he was in his 50s or 60s. So it was just a cool mix of people. And the first night we got there and we were going out to a fire pit, and dad had kind of organized that there'd be two fire pits. And as we were walking out, the whole group was in front of us, and dad said, right, you're going to take the sons and you're going to ask them what it's like to be a son. And I'm going to take the fathers and going to act. And I was like, Dad, I've been asking for 2 or 3 weeks, what's the plan for this? And you're like, ah, we'll figure it out, we'll sort it out. And now you're throwing this on me last minute. Like, what's this about? I thought we were meant to be doing this together. So like, no, I'm not doing that. So he's like, okay, okay, okay. We'll get everyone around one fire pit and we'll, facilitate a conversation that way. And dad, in true dad style, which what he does in a lot of the businesses we're in is he'll create a safe space and context for the circle that we're in, and he'll kind of clap his hands and go, right, what's coming up for people?
Yeah.
And sit in that silence, which is sometimes uncomfortable for people. It's sometimes intriguing. It's and that's a very potent silence that he creates, and it's in that space he creates. Now, what was ironic is I piped up and I said, Dad, you always do this. You always throw things on me last minute and give me more direction and da 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 da. And people were looking around, being like, "Is this a setup? Do you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
like what is going on here?" And now, what he did brilliantly, and what one of our clients said to me only recently, what he did so brilliantly there is he just held the space and kind of listened and nodded and was like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And then other dads and other sons came in, and what it did was it kind of blew open the whole thing. In once people realized that it wasn't a setup, that, oh, this is a place where we can actually be real and talk about real frustrations that we have. So we kind of, in an unintentional way, kind of led the way for the tone of the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And uh, similarly, in my life, asking dad, like, what should I do? Should I do this? He's always very tentative and being prescriptive about what I should do because, I mean, he in his, how should I know? Like, I give you guidance, but it's really your life. So I think maybe because I've been around that type of work all my life, I was really intrigued on some of the deeper questions of
Mhm.
life, like what's the meaning we find behind work, and what's a meaningful life, and all these kind of questions. So I studied philosophy and sociology in college. I did a undergraduate in arts
Mhm.
in Trinity, and then I did a master's in UCC, and I did a master's in global ethics in philosophy and sociology. So it
Wow.
was like political philosophy, um, Eastern and Western philosophy, social science, economic sociology. So it was kind of like the humanities, but grounded in reality, and how can we apply it to reality? Okay. And I loved it. I got a first class honor, loved what I was doing, but didn't really know how I was going to apply that to life. And through that, I worked in nonprofits, then started insurance sales. Someone in my rugby club said you'd be good at sales, so I said I'd give that a go. I did that for a year, and I loved that, but I didn't really want to be talking about worst case scenarios all the time, which was
Yeah.
kind of what insurance sales was about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I got into tech sales and started out in Glassdoor, did that for a couple of years, and then worked for a startup in Canada for just under 4 years, and joined when there was 90 people and we were at about 8 million a year
Yeah.
recurring revenue, and left when there was 400 or 500 of us, and we were doing, I can't exactly remember, but it was like 40, 50, 60 million a year, and we went public on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So it was amazing to watch, to
Yeah.
be part of that journey. And I was the first external sales hire, and we grew the sales team to like 30. So that's kind of been my career to date.
Yeah.
And I always knew and wanted to kind of go into this coaching space, but I didn't really know what my path was going to be. And then COVID happened, and I think COVID put a lot of things in perspective for a lot of us,
Yeah.
and kind of put the cat amongst the pigeons in terms of, okay, what do I really want to do with my life? So I started my coaching education. So I did my coaching course with Ericsson Coaching International, amazing organization, and that's certified by the ICF, the International Coaching Federation. So I had to do 70 hours of classroom training with certified coaching trainers, and then 100 hours coaching with clients, and then pass an exam, and then submit. a coaching call and get that recorded. So now I'm an ACC qualified coach, which means associate certified coach. And that kind of gave me the confidence to work with dad, because now
Yeah.
I don't have the life experience or the experience he does, but now I'm bringing my own life and work experience and my own qualifications. Um, and so that's so yeah, I've been in and out of the business since I was 8 years old when dad brought me
Yeah.
to a workshop with the client. But now in the last 18 months, I've been in it full time. So that's kind of my journey to here. And yeah, it's been a mad journey. Like I was only at the Marketing Institute of Ireland had a big conference on Wednesday, and they're one of our clients.
Hmm.
So I work with a lot of their senior leadership team, one-on-one coaching and group coaching. Dad and I do the group coaching together. And I went along to this event, and it was really well run. It was in TU Dublin in the Grange Gorman campus.
Mm.
And at the coffee break, I was walking around and getting a coffee, and I bumped into like 3 or 4 people from different companies, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we work with your dad. We love the calls with your dad. We're a client of his," and it just kind of landed home to me, I suppose, the impact he's had maybe. And maybe
Yeah.
I would have been self-conscious about that before, like, oh, who am I in comparison to that, or they're big shoes to fill, or I don't want to be on my dad's coattails. But now I feel confident that actually, we've a great network of people and a lot of goodwill built up, and also this is a great place where I can learn and grow and add my own flavor to coaching. So
Mm.
it was a real kind of turning point for me to kind of step into that space as me.
Yeah.
And in the past year, to end a really long answer to your question, in the past year, yeah, I've started working with a lot of our existing clients, started bringing in some new clients to the business, both one-on-one and corporate clients. And yeah, it's been a massive learning process, and learning how to work with dad, and what ways we work well together, what ways we clash, and how to figure that out. So that's been a whole process.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's where I'm at today.
Brilliant. Amazing. What how would you characterize the work that you do? And it's even like it's essential training, right? But equally, your dad works as a member of the below the line team. I think there's a commonality between both. But what's your take on yeah, as you reflect on your dad and the type of work he does, and that you're now doing?
Cool. Well, I'd love to hear your answer on this as well.
Yeah.
So just get ready.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but for me, so yeah, essential training is the name of the business. We help people and teams achieve more of their potential. That's a really short, that's the elevator pitch way of what we say. So what does that actually mean? What does that look like? So we create a safe space for people to talk real talk about what's really coming up for them. And generally what that does is help them unlock some of the things that are blocking them, either personally or within a team. And what one other way I describe what we do is we're kind of like the synovial fluid in a joint, or the grease between cogs in a machine. So we'll often be working with, let's say, a CFO who's having a difficult relationship with the managing director. And we'll be coaching the managing director one on one, and we'll be coaching the CFO one on one. And we'll help them come to a greater level of self awareness, so that they can, if they're having conflict, they can better understand themselves and better
Hmm.
understand the person that they're working with, so that it's a smoother relationship.
Yeah.
And that usually happens over a period of 3 to 6 months, a year. Sometimes we're working with business just for years and years. Um, and and that's done through one-on-one coaching, like I said. So that's either in person or virtually, and done in group workshops. So we might take a group for a day or a couple of days to offsite or in their offices, and we'll create a safe space so that they feel comfortable to say the things that they're not saying in the business, and also a place where they can commend each other for the great work they're doing as well. So it's often a place where people can come to the realizations of the great stuff that they are doing and what makes them great as a team, and how can they lean more into that, and what's holding them back, and how can they break through those barriers.
Yeah.
And what we find is, so one of our clients who was the CEO or MD of a one of Ireland's biggest marketing companies who got acquired by Accenture, uh, what he said it to me in an interview and the videos on our website,
Mm.
he said, it's like boiling a frog working with your dad. Your dad will be in with us for, 6 months, a year. I think dad was with them for years and years. And slowly but surely, people in the business start to find what works for them or what part of their roles they really like or they're really good at, and they'll lean more into that.
Yeah.
The relationships amongst team will slowly start to get better. People that aren't a fit for the business and that aren't happy will start to leave because they'll realize that they're a better fit elsewhere,
Mm.
or that, like, I remember one story when we were working with an IT company. Uh, one of the women there really wanted to be a primary school teacher, and once she realized that,
Mm.
she didn't leave immediately. Over a number of years, she kind of made a gradual transition to do what she really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that was great for her personally. And it was also great for the team because then there was space for someone to come in that was really chomping at the bit to do her role.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's kind of how I characterize the work that we do.
Mm.
And that's a description of how it looks in real terms on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've gotten a really amazing opportunity over the last year and a half to get a real uh, front seat into how that operates. And I've been really privileged to be able to be an observer for a lot of that time,
Mm.
both in our in-person work and in one-on-one work. Um, and and yeah, I feel really lucky because I had my own coaching business in Canada, and after 6 months doing that, I realized I really wanted to be working with my dad and learning from him and helping him with his business and kind of bringing it to the next generation.
Yeah.
So I feel lucky to be kind of in the kind of under the brand of essential training, and I get to learn. And it's sometimes I feel like I get to play at being an entrepreneur and start new things while being in the safety of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and yeah, like, two examples of things that I've started recently after kind of a year of getting my feet under the table is one thing we were talking about it earlier the other
Mm.
day when we met and at the start of this call is it's called the Sales Sanctuary. So we meet every Thursday at 4 p.m. GMT, and it's sales. It's a space for men in sales, and the idea is anybody who joins feel safe that they can come as their authentic selves.
Mm-hmm.
So they can talk about deals that they're struggling with, if they want to get a promotion, if they're looking for a new job, if they're struggling managing family life and work, if they've had really good wins and they want to share it, if they've got extra expertise they want to share. And so we meet every Thursday, and the community's growing. We have a Slack group as well, and it's free. And that's a way where
Mm.
me and my colleague Damien, who's based in Vancouver, we hold space for that conversation. And yesterday we had the call, and it was just amazing to see the light bulbs going off for people about different areas of their life or their career, just by learning from others. We're not coming in as experts; we're coming in as just facilitators. So that's one thing I do.
Mm.
I also started a monthly meeting where for people in their family businesses.
Yeah.
So again, we meet for 2 hours once a month, and that's a place where we can chat and share about what it's like to be in a family business
Yeah.
and struggles that we have. And I get a lot from that too because I'm working in a family business. So
Yeah.
it's kind of doubly beneficial for me.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of an insight into
Yeah.
what we do and how I describe it.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Um, I suppose for me, my take on it, I think, I find I'm really interested, like I'm fascinated by business and how businesses work and how organizations work. But I think I'm even more fascinated by how people interact in that, environment. And I think if I think about the work that we all do, for me, it's often about just helping people step back from all of that, and whether it's an individual getting to look at themselves and how they're approaching stuff or just going after or at stuff, or if it's just if it's a team or a group. And actually, often what you're doing is helping people see the person behind the role or the job, or the time they let me down, or they messed up something. And actually, you're the word I kind of use and have been using for a while with people is kind of, it's often when you bring somebody like us in, it's like you're trying to minimize the drag factor, because the drag factor is the personalities, it's the misunderstandings, it's the miscommunication, or it's me and the story I'm telling myself about whether I'm capable or not, or what I am actually capable of. So often what you're doing is just kind of saying to people, just step back from that for a second and listen to yourself and look at yourself, and then listen and look at the other people in the room. And I think what your dad has always been so brilliant at is helping people do that and make kind of, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, geez, we really needed that. Now we can get back on the horse and go after what we really want to go after. So yeah, for me, it's just stop for a second. And the beauty of, and I saw this so much during COVID as well with all the clients we worked with, and you were the same, was people who were in positions of leadership, they're trying to drive stuff all the time. So they're clipping off one Zoom call with their team, and they're clipping onto another one with the client, and then they're clipping onto another call, and they're driving the stuff all the time. And then they get to the end of the day and it's like there's nothing left in the tank. So I think what we do is just like, well, we'll drive the interaction with your people, so that they come out kind of going, oh, that was great, or I know that person better now, or geez, I had a good chance to look at myself and how I'm approaching stuff. And so the skill that people like us bring, hopefully, is exactly to your point about your dad. Like, you ask a question and then you just shut up, and people kind of go, oh my God, like this isn't good. But it's like, well, Brian or Dave or Ian, like they seem comfortable enough, so they must have seen this before or whatever. And you're also comfortable enough to deal with whatever comes up into the room. So if it's the case that someone needs to get upset or needs to get frustrated or is angry with something, it's like, yeah, that's okay. But better that stuff is out here, with someone who can kind of manage it on behalf of the group, so that it kind of, not that it has to get tidied up or anything, but that we go, okay, I'm glad Brian or Dave or Ian was there when that happened, because I don't know how we as a group would have managed it. And I always say as well, I got together with the Below the Line gang. Your dad wasn't able to make it this time, but we had someone facilitate us, and we've had that a few times. And we often say, so Peter in our gang kind of said, I think we should have someone there to kind of save them from ourselves, save us from ourselves. And we were like, yeah, you're right, because we need, as expertise, as expert quote unquote as we might be in facilitating groups, like, yeah, we're not great at doing it ourselves, so let's bring someone in to work with us so to get the best out of us. And I think that's, I have no problem saying that, and I regularly tell people, sure, we have people to facilitate us, because otherwise we'd be going around in circles. So it's often like, that's what we do. It's like we'll drive the meeting or the engagement for you, so that you don't have to do it and you can just be in it. And then we can ask questions, or we can kick the tires hard on what's coming up in the room, or if someone gets upset, we'll handle it. It's all okay, because we're human beings, and we try and put all this structure around business and titles and strategy and all this kind of stuff. But then when you get below the line with it, quote unquote, or you know what I mean? It's like, well, actually, it's how you're showing up into all of this and what you're carrying and bringing with you from a lifetime of experiences. And that's like, that can sound quite heavy, but it's like, but that's the stuff that's shaping you. That's the stuff that's influencing how you're reacting there. So can we help you put your hands on that in a way that it doesn't burn you, or it doesn't feel really heavy, And to your point about your dad, like, I see that as well with him, which is, there's years and years of experience and relationships, and he gets very close with people and all that type of stuff, and he shares, but that's because he'll kind of help you step into that stuff bit by bit. He doesn't kind of rip the band-aid off, or he doesn't come in with a crowbar and kind of break you open. It's just to help you step into that. And if I think as well about him in the context of his own business or our business, it's like, he's put himself through those experiences. So when I hear you talk about, like, you don't have as much experience as your dad, you don't yet, but you've loads of life experience that he doesn't have. And I think when you're in this space, that's what you're bringing. It's you and your experiences and what you've put yourself through, or how vulnerable you've made yourself, or how vulnerable you've inadvertently made yourself. And I think that's a lot of stuff that I draw on when I talk about this work, which is like, yeah, I don't have the same level of experience as the people I work with, because they're older than me. But my God, I've been in rooms with them when they've asked me really tough questions, or where they've asked questions of other people, and it's been tough to kind of watch them do it. But it's you've made yourself vulnerable, and you're okay with doing that. Not that you love it all the time, but it's like, well, if you're going to ask a group or a business or a client to go there, it's like, well, if you haven't gone there yourself to some degree, you can't, in all authenticity or in fairness, actually ask somebody else to kind of go there. So I'm rambling now, but that's maybe my take on the work.
Oh, everything you said, amazing. Like we were talking before, I do a lot of spoken word poetry or events like that, and when someone's saying something that you like in a poem, you kind of click your
Yeah,
fingers
yeah.
like that. So when you were talking, I was just like, yeah, snaps to that. Like a lot of what you said.
And
Um,
go on, yeah.
yeah, a lot of what you said there resonates. I love what you're saying about that you bring in a facilitator for
Yeah.
your team meetings. I mean, how I describe below the line is like the Avengers of coaches and consultants, right? So all
Brilliant.
these different coaches and consultants that have their own businesses, and then you come together under below the line under one brand to kind of add more to your clients' businesses, or add different flavors of things. And I love the fact that you're now bringing in facilitators to facilitate some of your meetings, because you're eating your own hamburger, as they say in the
Yeah,
US.
yeah,
And I think that, especially in Ireland, if you're not doing that and you're in this work, people can smell it straight away.
yeah.
So what we're asking, and another thing of what you're saying is we're asking to people to bring the humanity to their work,
Mm,
uh, and to bring the humanity to their workplace. And the tough thing about that, well, one of the tough things about that is then you have to do that yourself as well. So I was chatting with a
yeah,
friend who's a coach and a yoga teacher recently, and the tough thing about being a yoga teacher, she was saying, is it's the commodification of self. People are looking at you going, oh, how flexible are they? And how fit are they? And how fresh does their skin look? Because I'm not going to listen to them as a yoga teacher unless they're practicing what they preach. And I think there's an element of that in our business. And that's been a really tough thing for me to get over in the past year, because I mistakenly thought that I had to be perfect and have all the answers in doing this work. And that's not what it's about. I'm showing up as an imperfect human that's willing to have difficult conversations. And that's enough to create that space where people can have those insights.
yeah,
So that's a couple of things that are coming up for me as you speak, is
yeah,
that you're eating your own hamburgers, getting your own facilitators, and the kind of, a friend of mine was asking, "Oh, I listened to your podcast and I really liked it. And is it difficult to do it? Like, getting the recording and the editing." I said, "Not really. Like anybody could really do it.
mm,
The difficult thing is putting yourself out there,
yeah,
and maybe the prep and the 30 years of experience that I've built up, that I can speak about these things and I feel like I have something to say, and I'm I realize I'm going to make mistakes and all those things. That's what's difficult about having a podcast for me.
yeah,
Um, the finicky stuff, yeah, that's annoying, but like anybody can learn that.
yeah,
The other thing that came up for me as you were speaking was, again, on the fact that you have your own facilitator coming in. Like, you can't facilitate yourself. If you're in the meeting and you're in a team, it's very hard to step out of that and kind of notice other people when you're in it.
yeah,
And we've seen that with a few of our clients. Like, some try and run offsite days by themselves, and the CEO and the COO and like a president are kind of, will be the coaches and facilitators for the day. And like, not a great intention, but at the end of the day, you can hire and fire anybody in this room. So they're going to be watching their P's and Q's when you're asking them to be real. Whereas when we're facilitating, you can kind of sit in the passenger seat.
yeah,
Uh, And we use this analogy recently because we're pitching for some business at the moment, and it's he's going in as an MD in a large pharmaceutical business and in one of their segments, and he wants to do a lot of change management. And so he's like, great idea. I'm going to take the team away for 3 days off site, and I'd like to bring you guys in for the first day and kind of do the mindset, and then you guys go away, and then I'll do the business stuff the next 2 days. And what we were saying is, no, you should really have us there for the 3 days, because how that could very easily turn into, this is the fluffy day. Now this is the
Yes.
business day where we go back to normal.
Yeah.
And so the analogy we used for him that dad gave me that now I've been using is, he heard when we were very young, we younger kids, drive your kids everywhere, because when you're driving in the car, they kind of somehow they forget, and they'll
Yeah.
start talking with their friends, and they'll start sharing things with each other, and they'll kind of forget that you're in the car driving.
Yeah.
And that's similar to when we're driving the car, facilitating a workshop. You, as the CEO, can sit in the passenger seat, and your employees in the back or in the other passenger seat will just start talking as you're kind of in the room with them,
Yeah.
and you're you're in the car with them. They're not looking to you as here listening. He or she is listening to every word we're saying and scrutinizing us. And the penny dropped for him when we use that analogy. And I was at a HSE day on self-harm awareness there recently, and I was having lunch, and the people I was chatting with at that moment were 5 or 6 mums. All of them all had their kids kind of early teens or younger,
Mm.
and they were saying, yeah, 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 when we're driving our kids, they share stuff. Like, I can't get my kid to talk when I ask them how their day was, but then if I drive them to soccer with one
Yeah.
of their friends, or then they just start gushing about and it's like a magic thing.
Yeah.
And that's similar to when we create the space and we facilitate in a room with the team, is the CEO or the leaders in the room can kind of go, oh,
Yeah.
and they can watch and observe and listen and be part of it. And it kind of equalizes everything.
Yeah, and I think as well, I'm sure you come across this too. One of the things you have to tell that person is, don't feel the need to, when a question is asked, everyone's probably is going to go and look at you and wait for you to fill it. So it's like, all you need to do is sit there and shut up. And if you really have to or feel pressure, say, what do other people think? You know, um,
No,
yeah, because then you're showing, hopefully you're giving people that sense of, okay, they're not driving this, and they are interested in what I'm hearing saying. Or maybe sometimes it's better actually just say nothing and let somebody else break the silence, and then that's tacitly telling people, oh, okay, we have to voice up here, or voice in,
yeah, and for years we worked with a couple of MDs in businesses, and what was happening is they were getting frustrated that no one was coming up with new, fresh ideas.
Mm,
But after we worked with them for a while, we all realized that what happens is people come up with new ideas, and then the dynamic in the team was everyone just did what the CEO did anyway. So people just thought, well, I'm going to sit back here because no matter what I say, we're going to go with what the leader wants.
yeah,
And they were getting frustrated. And after working with us, they realized while they thought they were creating an open environment for dialogue and innovation, they weren't.
yeah,
And it took that step back that I think you really nicely described for them to see that in how
yeah.
they're bringing themselves to the team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, if I think about the work that we're involved in, you know, and I know you call yourselves essential training, and that's what your dad started off doing, but it's actually it's more about essential being. You know, how we'll help you guys. But the work we do, it's about, well, we'll help you be a team. We'll help you be a business. We'll help you be a better version of yourself. And it's not, as you say, it's not because, oh, um we're the best versions of ourselves. Actually, we're not. We fall flat in our faces all the time. But you know, if you're going to try and do that, then yeah, you have somebody in your corner, or you have someone to help you get more out of yourself, or get more out of your business, get more out of your group, by taking the pressure off you to kind of have to drive that. It's and it becomes this very fundamental human place, where, yes, we'll talk about the business, yes, we'll talk about strategy, but we'll also talk about where are we at in the middle of all of that, because that's the stuff that can slow strategy or execution or communication or trust down. So, and they all, that you've come across that phrase, I'm sure, as well as I have, the soft stuff is the hard stuff. And it absolutely is. And the soft stuff is the stuff that slows people down, that trips people up, that causes friction. And that leads to missed deadlines or, excuse me, missed deals or not being effective or not maximizing as much of our potential. So there's something about, as I listen to you, there's something about, even as I think about our business, that's what we do really. We partner with people to help them, be in their business, and be more of themselves in their business. And as a consequence, they get more out of themselves. They get more out of their business, their results, etc.
I've actually never heard that. The soft stuff is the hard stuff.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. I will use
Yeah.
that if that's okay. That's
it's,
brilliant.
it's not my trademark or anything. So yes, you're welcome.
And that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like just to talk brass tacks for a second, like I mean, if I take that example of Rothko, the company that I was talking about earlier, who are
Yeah.
now a Accenture Song, I asked him in an interview, look, I know, Patrick, I know like you're not about the bottom line because I'd only seen him be this human everywhere I come across
Yeah.
him. I know you're not about the bottom line, but like just for anybody watching this video, how does this help the bottom line? And he stopped me and he goes, sorry, Brian, I'm all about the bottom line.
Yeah.
And okay, if you want to use financial FT language, it's human capital. It's how can we put the best people in the best places and get the best out of them, and them also to be fulfilled and happy, and us
Mm.
not drive them into the ground. And like maybe part of me is an idealist. I think maybe you have to be optimistic doing this type of work, but like I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want to be successful financially and also feel fulfilled and also have time for my family. And I want that for my clients as well.
Yeah.
Um, and I want them to feel healthy and well rested and like they can be their true selves in work.
Mm.
And also, I want them to be financially independent and comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think for me in my life, I've had pendulum swings of going traveling Latin America for 8 months and then coming back and working in tech sales, or
Yeah. Yeah.
go walk the Camino de Santiago and, you know, pay €8 for a massive lunch and €6 to stay in a little hostel, and then go back to selling deals in
Yes.
North America for like, you know, X number of dollars. And what I'm finding for myself is those two parts of myself are starting to integrate more.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to bring my true self into the workplace and starting to see how that's valued. And one example of that, which you mentioned before we chatted, this call is, so I do a lot of spoken word poetry,
Yeah.
and I got into it when I was doing my master's, and I kind of wanted a different type of night out, so I Googled open mic night, and I went to the International Bar in the center of Dublin City on the south side, and in the basement, and there was people playing music, and one guy got up. His name's John Cummins, and oh, I don't remember exactly where he's from, but he had like he talked like this, do you know what I mean? He had a really long beard and he just had a way with words that just absolutely lit me up. And
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was poetrizing and philosophizing, and it was kind of like rap and it was kind of like poetry. And I just, my mind and my heart was just blown open. And I was driving home from that and I was so inspired. I pulled over the car and I just had to write what was coming up for me. And I went back the next week and I performed one of the poems that poem that I wrote. And I just went back every day for a year because I just
Yeah.
couldn't get enough of this. People just sharing stuff that they had done, and you know, some people were terrible, some people were great, some people were learning. It was an amazingly safe space for
Mm.
people to express themselves. And I ended up starting my own night called the Circle Sessions in the Harbour Bar in Bray. And we did that for a year, and we had my good friend Ava McMahon, who's a Shanno singer who sang with the Nuna, she came and sang Shannos.
Wow.
Or my friend Cian Donahue band Heroes in Hiding, they did an acoustic set. And then we had like a friend of mine, David Halpin, singing and playing on his keyboard. And then we'd have people telling stories. And it was really this kind of almost harkening back to old Ireland where people
Yeah.
were sharing what they were doing. And it was in a circular conservatory in Harbour Bar. So there was no real separation between the performer and the audience. And it was this beautiful kind of conducive environment to true creativity and people sharing. And what I loved about it as well is I was going to all these open mic nights, but you'd have your 3 or 4 invited acts, and then the open micers would go on at 11:30 when everyone was either leaving or drunk or whatever. Whereas with the circle sessions, you could have a seasoned performer who's a professional artist, and
Yeah.
you could someone who's sharing a poem or a short story for the first time ever in their whole life. And one of the things I would say in when I was facilitating the circle sessions was, is there anybody that hasn't performed yet that would like to
Yeah.
perform? We had a sign up sheet that I'd be reading off. And so, and a few times in those really special nights, someone would go, I've never performed before and I've never spoken in public, but I just see that this is a really amazing environment. And I wrote something the other week and I'd love to perform it. And they were such powerful moments because
Yeah.
some of those people, so the circle sessions has now been going for 10 years, which
Yeah.
blows my mind because I just did it for a year and a half and I went off and I did other stuff. But Dave kept it going, and then if he's stepped away now and other people are keeping going, and now it's in the International Bar every Monday night. And it's been going for 10 years, and it's morphed into something that I could have never imagined it.
Yeah.
And what I'm realizing is, oh, I was facilitating all that time.
Yeah.
And that's the exact same thing we do in organizations is you might have a young manager going, oh, I never felt that I was brave enough to speak in front of senior leadership, but actually I've seen this gap in our business for the past 18 months, and now I feel it's a safe place to share it.
Yeah.
And maybe that opens up a new revenue stream, or maybe it reduces costs, or and for me, I'm realizing that different parts of my life are kind of aligning
Yeah. Yeah.
in the work that I'm doing. And I suppose that's what we're trying to do for our clients is bring your whole self to your work because there's value in it's not, oh, I'm a musician and I'm a coach and I'm also a father and I'm also a son. It's like if you bring all that in, what amazing things can come out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think um our job, or what's kind of how would I describe it? I think if you're gonna, back to what you're saying earlier about, if you're gonna show up into this type of work, then I think you've got to be prepared to do that, to go through that type of development, or that type of thinking or that type of experience yourself. And it's uncomfortable and it's messy, and yeah, you're gonna 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But that's the challenge, because as I said earlier, if you're going to show up in front of a group and get them to be vulnerable or honest, if you haven't done that to some degree yourself, and I think it is the work in progress. You'd be doing this and I'll be doing this till year dot. The second you think, as your dad likes to say, if you have it all figured out, you'd be up and gone in a puff of smoke. But the second, and equally, the second you think you have it all figured out, that's when the universe will tell you, by God, you don't. And here's why, and here's the lesson you probably need to learn today to kind of be reminded of that fact.
And
Yeah, go on.
well, I mean, that's one of the things that I find really vulnerable and kind of anxiety inducing about releasing podcasts is I hope people don't think that I have all the answers. I hope they don't think I'm standing up on some pedestal or soapbox. Like I made a really difficult decision to move back in with my parents at 33 after living abroad for 4 or 5 years because I wanted to learn from my dad and I wanted to do work that I really believed in. And like I still have so much to learn in so many different areas of my life. But actually, it's because of that that I feel like we can do the podcast.
Yeah.
But I think there's a natural thing of, oh, I suppose that's just my fear is that, and Dad said it in a couple of podcasts ago. He's like, look, there's no gurus. We're not ascribing to any thought form here or any, you know, institution or anything like that. It's more just we're sharing as we're learning and as we're going. And I went into Dad and his office is just across the way from me here, and like he's dealing with different negotiations at the moment, and
Hmm.
things are pissing him off, and then things are lighting him up, and it's just it's a process, like
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Where are we now?
I think that's a beautiful point to wrap things up.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think this could be an ongoing series, over the course of a year to drop in like this every once in a while, could be very valuable and useful. But I've loved it.
Me too. I got so much out of it.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Huge thanks to Brian Kingston for taking the time to chat and share his thoughts and experiences with me. Please subscribe at www.belowtheline.ie to stay up to date with us and all our activity. That's it from us for now. We'll talk to you again soon.